Family called me selfish for not giving my 4-bedroom house to my sister's kids. Then I found out where their child support money really went. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Thanks to you, we can keep sharing the most shocking family stories. Let's jump in. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need perspective from strangers because my family has me questioning everything about myself. I'm James, 32M, and I've worked in software development since graduating college. 3 years ago, after my grandmother passed, she left me her house, a modest but well-maintained 4-bedroom home in a decent neighborhood. It needed work, but nothing major. I've spent these years renovating it room by room, turning it into my sanctuary. I'm single, no kids, and honestly, I like my space and quiet. My sister Michelle, 34F, has 3 kids, Tyler, 8M, Olivia, 6F, and Nathan, 4M. She divorced their father Robert 2 years ago after he cheated. Since then, she's been living in a 2-bedroom apartment with our mother Patricia, 55F, who helps with childcare. The conflict started 6 months ago when Michelle began making comments about my excessive space. At first, it was subtle, jokes about me rattling around in a big house alone, comments about empty bedrooms gathering dust. Our mother joined in, suggesting I could share my blessing with family. Then it escalated. Michelle started bringing the kids over more frequently, always with some emergency. The apartment's being fumigated, or the heat's broken, or the kids need space to play. I never minded. I love my nephews and niece. I'd set up the guest room for them, cook meals, play video games with Tyler, read to Olivia, build blocks with Nathan. But then Michelle started leaving them for entire weekends without asking. She'd drop them off Friday evening and not return until Sunday night, claiming she had to work extra shifts at the hospital where she's a nurse. Mom would back her up, saying how hard Michelle works to provide for her children as a single mother. 2 months ago, the real campaign began. Michelle sat me down with our mother present and proposed that she and the kids move into my house, temporarily, just until she could save for a better place. She painted this picture of the kids suffering in cramped quarters, sharing one tiny room, no yard to play in, struggling with homework at the kitchen table because there was no space. "James," she said, tears in her eyes, "you have 4 bedrooms. 4. My babies are crammed into one room like sardines while you have 3 empty rooms. How can you look at them and not want to help?" Mom added, "Family helps family, James. Your grandmother would be ashamed to see you hoarding space while these innocent children suffer." That hit hard. Grandma had been everything to me. She'd practically raised me while my parents worked. The thought of disappointing her memory made my stomach turn. But something felt off about the entire situation. When I suggested helping Michelle find a bigger apartment instead, or contributing to her rent, she exploded. She accused me of being selfish, of not wanting her kids to dirty up my perfect house, of caring more about my things than family. "You think we're not good enough for your precious house," she screamed. "You'd rather throw money at us to keep us away than actually help?" Mom backed her completely. "James, this is about family, not money. Michelle needs stability for those children. You're being incredibly selfish." The guilt was crushing. Here I was, one person in a 4-bedroom house, while my sister struggled with 3 kids in a small apartment. Was I being selfish? Was I really the monster they were painting me as? But then odd things started happening. Michelle would post on social media about taking the kids to expensive theme parks, restaurants, shopping trips. When I asked how she afforded it on a single nurse's salary while supposedly struggling, she'd say they were gifts from friends or she'd saved up for months to give the kids something special. She started showing up at my house at random times, sometimes when I was at work, using the spare key I'd given her for emergencies. I'd come home to find things moved, drawers opened, documents on my desk disturbed. When confronted, she'd say she was just looking for toys the kids left behind or checking if I had supplies for them. Last week was the breaking point. Michelle called me crying, saying Nathan was sick and needed a quiet place to recover, away from the chaos of the apartment. Could they stay just for a few days? Despite my reservations, I agreed. Nathan's health came first. When they arrived, Nathan seemed fine, energetic, even playing, laughing, running around. When I mentioned this to Michelle, she snapped that I wasn't a doctor and didn't know what her child needed. That evening, I overheard Michelle on the phone in the guest room. She was talking to someone, I couldn't tell who, but her words made my blood run cold. The guilt trip is working. Mom's fully on board. No, he's cracking, I can tell. Just a little more pressure about the kids suffering. Once we're in, possession is 9/10 of the law. He won't have the heart to evict his own sister and her kids. The house will basically be ours. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't about the kids needing space. This was about Michelle wanting my house. The next morning, I told her they needed to leave. She played innocent, asking why I was being so cruel to sick Nathan. When I didn't budge, she called our mother, who arrived within an hour. What followed was 2 hours of them tag-teaming me. I was selfish, heartless, probably mentally ill to be so attached to an empty house. Michelle suggested maybe I needed therapy for my hoarding disorder, hoarding empty space, apparently. Mom wondered aloud if Grandma had been in her right mind leaving the house to me instead of to the single mother with 3 children. They left eventually, but not before Michelle looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't over, James. Those kids deserve better than a selfish uncle who values square footage over family." Now I'm sitting here, wondering if I'm really the villain in this story. Yes, I have space. Yes, the kids could benefit from a yard and their own rooms. But something feels deeply wrong about how Michelle is going about this. The manipulation, the lies, the emotional blackmail using the children. Am I being selfish? Should family come before my comfort and autonomy in my own home? Or am I right to feel like I'm being conned? I keep thinking about those kids and wondering if I'm failing them as an uncle. But I also can't shake the feeling that moving them in would be the beginning of losing my home entirely. What would you do? Update 1, 2 weeks later. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your perspectives gave me the courage to dig deeper into what was really happening. What I discovered has completely shattered my relationship with my sister and mother, but more importantly, it's opened my eyes to a situation far worse than property disputes. After my post, I followed the advice of several commenters and installed security cameras around my property. I also changed the locks and didn't give Michelle a new key. The tantrum she threw when she discovered this was epic. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts ranging from guilt trips to outright threats. But what really prompted me to investigate was a comment from someone who pointed out that Michelle's story didn't add up financially. A nurse's salary, even struggling, combined with child support, should afford better than a 2-bedroom apartment shared with our mother. So I started paying attention. I reached out to Robert, my former brother-in-law. We hadn't spoken much since the divorce, but he seemed eager to talk. What he told me made my stomach turn. "James, I've been paying $2,400 a month in child support, plus covering their health insurance and half of all extracurriculars," he said. Michelle claimed the kids needed extensive tutoring, therapy, sports programs. I've been sending extra for all of it. When I asked about visitation, his voice broke. She's been denying it for months. Always some excuse. The kids are sick, they have plans, they're traumatized by the divorce. I've documented everything for my lawyer. I asked Robert if he knew where Michelle was actually living. His answer floored me. "What do you mean, living with your mother?" "Michelle has a 3-bedroom townhouse in Riverside Gardens. I've been dropping the kids off there every other weekend until she started denying visitation." Riverside Gardens. A nice suburban development about 20 minutes from my house. 3 bedrooms. Not a cramped 2-bedroom apartment. I drove there that evening. Sure enough, Michelle's car was parked outside a well-maintained townhouse. Through the window, I could see a large TV playing in what looked like a spacious living room. This was not the picture of struggle she'd been painting. But here's where it gets worse. I sat in my car for about an hour, trying to process this, when I saw our mother's car pull up. She had the kids. They got out, and even from my distance, I could see Nathan was wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in 3 days ago at my house. Olivia's hair was matted, uncombed. Tyler was carrying a garbage bag that seemed to contain their belongings. I watched my mother hand Michelle an envelope, cash, I presumed, and leave without even going inside or hugging the kids goodbye. The next day, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I called Tyler's school, identifying myself as his uncle, and asked if I could speak to his teacher about how I could better support him academically. The teacher, Mrs. Jennifer Patterson, seemed relieved to hear from a family member. "I'm so glad you called," she said. "We've been concerned about Tyler. He's been falling asleep in class, coming to school without lunch money, wearing dirty clothes. When we tried to reach Mrs. Michelle, she said the family was going through financial difficulties. I told her I'd been led to believe the same thing and asked if there was anything else I should know. Well, she hesitated, Tyler wrote an essay about spending weekends at his uncle's house. He described it as the only place he feels safe and can get enough to eat. We were actually going to suggest Michelle consider letting him stay with you more often." My heart broke. While Michelle was using the kids as pawns to get my house, they were actually suffering, just not in the way she claimed. I contacted Olivia's kindergarten teacher next. Similar story. Nathan's daycare said he was often dropped off early and picked up late, sometimes by different people Michelle identified as babysitters, but who seemed to be random acquaintances. Armed with this information, I confronted Michelle. I called her and said we needed to talk, alone, without Mom. She showed up at my house the next evening, all fake smiles and ready to discuss a move-in timeline. I laid out everything I knew, the townhouse, the child support, the school reports. Her facade crumbled instantly. "You had no right to spy on me," she screamed. "You've been lying about everything, Michelle. More importantly, you've been neglecting your kids while using them as emotional manipulation. I'm their mother. I know what's best for them." "Do you?" "Because Tyler's teacher says he's malnourished and exhausted. Olivia's hair is so matted they had to call home about hygiene. Nathan's daycare has documented concerns." She tried to spin it then, claimed I was making things up, that the schools were overreacting, that I was trying to steal her kids because I was jealous of her family. "Michelle, I don't want your kids. I want them to be safe and cared for. What are you spending the money on? Robert sends you $2,400 a month plus extras. Mom obviously gives you money. You have a good job. Where is it going?" She wouldn't answer, just kept deflecting, until finally she said something that chilled me. "If you don't let us move in, I'll tell everyone you've been inappropriate with the kids." Who do you think they'll believe? A single man who insists on having children over to his house, or their mother? I was recording the conversation, legal in my state for personal protection. When I told her this, she grabbed her purse and stormed out, but not before saying, "You've just declared war on your own family." That night, I called Robert and told him everything. He put me in touch with his lawyer, who advised me to document everything and consider calling Child Protective Services. I agonized over this decision for 3 days. These were my nephews and niece. Calling CPS would change everything. But then I thought about Tyler falling asleep hungry in class, about Olivia's matted hair, about Nathan being shuffled between random babysitters. I made the call. The investigation is ongoing, but the initial home visit revealed enough concerns that the kids were temporarily placed with Robert while Michelle was required to undergo parenting classes and substance abuse evaluation. Oh yes, that's where the money was going, apparently. A gambling problem she developed during the pandemic, followed by pills to cope with the stress. My mother won't speak to me. She's called me every name in the book, accused me of destroying the family, of being vindictive over a house. She claims Michelle just needed help and I should have given it to her instead of involving outsiders. But here's the thing, I would have helped. If Michelle had come to me honestly, said she was struggling with addiction, needed support, I would have been there in a heartbeat. Instead, she tried to con me out of my home while neglecting her children and using them as weapons. The kids are doing better with Robert. He sends me updates. Tyler's grades are improving. Olivia smiles more. Nathan is in a stable routine. They ask about me, and Robert says I can see them whenever I want. As for my house, it feels emptier than ever, but not in the way Michelle claimed. It's empty of the family I thought I had. But it's also free of manipulation, lies, and toxic relationships. I'm looking into becoming a certified foster parent. If I'm going to have empty rooms, maybe they should go to children who really need them, not to those who would use them as pawns in their schemes. Update 2, 6 months later. It's been 6 months since I called CPS and my family imploded. I've debated whether to write this update because the journey has been so different from what I expected. But I've received messages asking how things turned out, and honestly, writing this helps me process everything that's happened. First, about Michelle. The substance abuse evaluation revealed she'd been struggling with prescription pills and online gambling for over 2 years. The divorce hadn't been because Robert cheated, that was another lie. He'd left because Michelle had drained their savings account and taken out credit cards in his name to fund her addictions. The child support money was going straight to online poker and pills. The townhouse, behind on rent by 3 months when CPS got involved. But here's what surprised me, when Michelle hit rock bottom, something changed. Maybe it was losing custody, maybe it was the court-mandated therapy, or maybe it was finally being forced to confront her lies. She entered a 90-day inpatient rehabilitation program. She wrote me a letter 2 months in. Not asking for money, not manipulating, just apologizing. She admitted to planning to take my house, to lying about the kids' living situation, to using them as weapons. She said the gambling started as pandemic boredom and escalated until she couldn't see straight. The pills were to numb the shame. The elaborate scheme about my house was desperation. She thought if she could just get us moved in, she could sell the townhouse lease, pay off debts, and start fresh. I turned my children into tools and you into an enemy when you were the only one actually seeing them as human beings, she wrote. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did. I haven't responded yet. I'm not ready. But I kept the letter. Our mother, Patricia, is another story. She knew. She knew everything, the gambling, the pills, the neglect. She was enabling Michelle, believing that covering for her would somehow fix things. When everything came out, she had what I can only describe as a complete breakdown. She's been living with her sister in another state, refusing to speak to any of us. I hear from my aunt that she's in therapy, wrestling with her role in everything. Robert has full custody now. He's remarried, to a woman named Amanda who genuinely loves the kids. They've moved to a house in my neighborhood, actually, just 4 blocks away. Robert wanted the kids to be able to maintain a relationship with me, the one family member he says was looking out for them. And the kids. God, the kids. Tyler is thriving. He's in counseling, processing a lot of anger toward Michelle but also missing her terribly. He's joined the robotics club at school and spends weekends building elaborate Lego creations in what I've now designated as Tyler's workshop in my garage. He told me last week that he wants to be a software developer like me. But better, he added with a grin. Olivia has become my little shadow. Every Tuesday and Thursday after school, she comes over for what we call uncle-niece adventures. Sometimes it's baking cookies, sometimes it's planting flowers in the garden I've started, sometimes it's just reading books in the hammock I installed in the backyard. Her hair is long and healthy now, always decorated with whatever colorful clips she's currently obsessed with. Nathan, at 4.5 now, doesn't fully understand what happened. He knows Mommy is sick and getting better. He knows he lives with Daddy and Amanda now. But mostly, he knows that Uncle James has the best swing set in the neighborhood, something I installed last month. But here's the unexpected part. Remember I mentioned becoming a foster parent? I did it. I completed all the training, the home inspections, the background checks. 2 months ago, I welcomed my first placement, a 10-year-old boy named David whose situation was heartbreakingly similar to my nephew's. His parents were dealing with addiction, and he needed a safe place while they worked toward reunification. Having David here has taught me more about myself than years of therapy ever could. That empty house Michelle coveted? It's full now, not just with David, but with purpose. My spare rooms have become spaces of healing. The kitchen that cooked meals for one now hosts family dinners with Robert's family, Tyler teaching David coding, Olivia reading to both boys, Nathan making everyone laugh. Last month, David's teacher called me. Whatever you're doing, she said, keep doing it. He's gone from failing everything to getting B's. He smiles now. He talks about your house like it's the first real home he's had. That broke me in the best way possible. The plot twist came 3 weeks ago. Michelle completed her program and moved to a halfway house. As part of her recovery, she's been allowed supervised visits with the kids. The first one was in a park, with a social worker present. I wasn't there, but Robert told me she broke down crying when she saw them. Not manipulative tears, real, gut-wrenching sobs of a mother realizing what she'd lost. She's working now, not as a nurse yet, her license was suspended, but at a grocery store, attending meetings, paying restitution. She asked Robert if she could write the kids letters. He agreed, with the condition that he reads them first. She wrote one to me too, delivered through Robert. This time, not just apologizing but sharing her recovery journey. She's been diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder and ADHD, which contributed to her addiction spiral. She's not using it as an excuse, just context. She says she dreams about the kids every night and uses that pain as motivation to stay clean. I wanted your house because I thought it would fix everything, she wrote. Now I understand I needed to fix myself first. Thank you for protecting my babies when I couldn't. When I was actively harming them. Yesterday, something unexpected happened. The social worker called me about David. His parents have relapsed and terminated their rights. He needs an adoptive placement. Would I consider it? I'm sitting here in my 4-bedroom house, Tyler's workshop humming with his latest creation, Olivia's art covering my refrigerator, Nathan's toys scattered across the living room, David doing homework at the kitchen table, and I realized Michelle was right about one thing. This house was too big for just me. But not in the way she meant. It wasn't too big because I was hoarding space. It was too big because it was meant to be filled with children who needed safety, love, and stability. Just not in the manipulative, destructive way she attempted. I've started the adoption process for David. Robert and Amanda are supportive. Even Tyler, Olivia, and Nathan are excited about officially having a cousin who lives at Uncle James's house. As for Michelle, she'll have a long road to rebuild relationships with her children, if ever. That's not my journey or my decision. But I hope she makes it. Not for her sake, but for Tyler, Olivia, and Nathan, who deserve a healthy mother if that's possible. My mother remains out of contact. I've made peace with that. She chose enabling over protecting her grandchildren. That's her burden to carry. The house that was almost stolen through manipulation and lies has become something else entirely, a haven. Not just for my nephews and niece, not just for David, but for me too. I thought I was protecting my property from a con. Turns out, I was preserving it for its true purpose. Next week, I'm meeting with an organization about becoming an emergency placement home for children in crisis. The woman who runs it said something that stays with me. The best homes for hurt children are those run by people who understand that family isn't about blood or manipulation or guilt. It's about showing up, consistently and honestly, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. My grandmother's house, the one Michelle claimed I was selfishly hoarding? It's become exactly what I think Grandma would have wanted, a place where children feel safe, loved, and valued. Not as pawns in adult schemes, but as human beings deserving of protection and care. The irony isn't lost on me. Michelle wanted this house for her children, claiming they needed the space. She was right, children did need this space. Just not in the twisted way she tried to take it. And not just her children, but all children who need someone to stand between them and adults who would use them. I started this journey feeling guilty about having empty rooms while my sister's kids supposedly suffered. I'm ending it understanding that those rooms were never really empty, they were waiting. Waiting for children who actually needed them, for the right reasons, in the right way. My house is full now. Full of laughter, tears, homework struggles, bedtime stories, Saturday morning cartoons, and the beautiful chaos of children healing from trauma. The family that tried to guilt me into giving it up through manipulation inadvertently led me to my life's purpose. Funny how that worked out. To anyone facing family manipulation, especially when children are being used as weapons, trust your instincts. Protect the innocent. Document everything. Don't let guilt override your good judgment. And remember, sometimes the best way to help family is to refuse to enable their destruction, even when they call you selfish for it. Especially then. Final note, thank you to everyone who reached out with support and advice. Your encouragement to investigate and protect the children literally changed multiple lives for the better. The Reddit community's ability to see through manipulation and advocate for the vulnerable gives me hope. The house is full, the children are safe, and I found my purpose. That's all any of us can really ask for.